These are supposed to be the best movies in the entire genre, and they're adored by fans and even people who don't normally watch comic book movies. The Nolan trilogy is seen as a masterpiece, especially The Dark Knight featuring the best live-action villain probably ever. But after convincing myself for over a decade that these movies live up to the hype, after a rewatch, I feel a little differently. I'm going to break down an extremely hot solar temperature take that I've developed after an in-depth rewatch, and I have a feeling if you rewatch these movies, you might actually feel a similar way. All three of these are still amazing, but one of them just doesn't live up to modern times, and you might be angry or surprised to figure out which one I am talking about. Starting in chronological order, Batman Begins has a lot to go over. It is a big challenge to bring a more realistic Batman into the modern era, and an even bigger challenge to make their first villain someone as creative as Ra's al Ghul. It would have been insanely easy to start over with someone like the Joker or Batman or someone like that, where it's pretty straightforward and you don't have to answer a lot of the supernatural questions like you do with Ra's. We'll go more in depth with these things in a minute, but spoiler alert guys, this isn't the movie I was talking about in the intro. Batman Begins holds up extremely well in the rewatch, and it toes the line perfectly with making Batman strong and powerful, but not too overpowered. He handles most of the regular goons with guns pretty easily as expected, and he even takes down Falcone right in the beginning, which was something that seemed impossible in Gotham just a little bit ago. He does have a bit of trouble with Scarecrow and beats Raj later on with a bit of a creative Batman situation as expected, and it's a solid entry into the comic book genre. It doesn't drag any origin stories, and it's funny at times with some pretty good action and good world building. It isn't perfect, and it does have some bad elements to it. For example, choosing Ra's al Ghul just isn't the best choice for the very first Batman movie in this trilogy, and it kind of takes away the opportunity to show off Bruce Wayne's evolution, like the way he fights and his detective work and everything, if he's immediately going up against a supernatural enemy. Gotham is another huge point of controversy here, and people either love it or hate it the way the city is set up in this movie. Personally, I like the Gotham in the next two movies better, and I think Nolan did too, considering the way he pretty much changed the entire city in between this one and the next Dark Knight. The ending isn't the most creative thing either. Compare Batman Begins finale to The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. The two movies after this one focuses more on Batman influencing people to make the right choices, and more about him being a symbol of hope, and in this one he kind of just rams Raj into a building on the train in like a super dark environment, and it's more about brute strength and a little less interesting. You can even compare it to the Batman's ending, which obviously is not a part of this trilogy, so it doesn't hold too much weight, but Bruce figuring out that he needs to be a symbol of hope and justice instead of vengeance, and it being a way more central point to the ending, is something I wish Batman Begins did more. Whether you agree with me or not on the ending theory, this movie is still a very valid watch in 2026. It looks great, it flows well, and it's a great way to bring Batman into the current comic book movie landscape, where he can stand next to the billion-dollar movies being manufactured pretty much yearly today. Now we'll get into the real interesting one in a little bit, but let's skip straight to The Dark Knight Rises. This one is generally considered the weakest one in the trilogy, which I don't really know if I agree with that, especially after the rewatch. I don't know if this is actually true or not, but it does feel like this movie has the least amount of Batman on screen. It has plenty of Bruce Wayne, but actual geared up gadget Batman is very little. I was pretty young, so I don't remember this, but apparently a lot of people complained about Bane here and thought he was too small when the movie first came out too. I obviously don't agree with that, and I don't think anyone else could have played him better, but I was a bit surprised to notice that they didn't mention Venom or really explore that essential part of Bane at all. I also just really quick wanted to mention relating these characters to Ra's al Ghul and making the woman Talia and Bane so closely connected to him and everything just didn't feel right, and that probably shouldn't have been added. Bane works absolutely fine by himself, and him taking over and destroying Gotham doesn't need a super complex reason, and he kind of just seems like the kind of dude that would do that anyway. This movie does have some really good parts to it, and Bruce focuses a lot on the future of Gotham in this film and trying to improve it even after he's gone, and he tries really hard to install his beliefs into other people as like a form of backup instead of just doing everything himself like usual. He has some cool gadgets and vehicles and other Batman stuff that you'd expect, and it feels really cinematic and special when the people of Gotham see Batman coming back after he's been gone for so long. It's really interesting how most of them still like him too, even after he's accused of killing the city hero, and it doesn't feel forced or predictable or anything because that's exactly what would happen in real life if something like that happened. The cops who weren't shooting at Bruce immediately definitely weren't Twitter conspiracy chat rooms saying Batman didn't really kill Harvey Dent, and most of them probably held beliefs that he helped the cop much more than he hurt them, so one random night where they didn't even see what went down wasn't going to change their thoughts of him. Him sacrificing himself to save Gotham and restoring everyone's faith in the city, along with meeting Alfred at the end and having breakfast with the baddie, is pretty much how every single Batman trilogy should end. Again, no movie is perfect, and this one does have some pretty bad things. Pump faking a Robin at the end of the movie was an interesting choice, and I don't know if Nolan thought that there was like going to be a fourth one or something, but I don't know what was going on there. A lot of people do bring up the fight scenes when they talk about this movie too, but personally they didn't bother me, and I don't think it subtracted from the movie as much as other people say. It's also really important to remember The Dark Knight Rises was probably supposed to have Joker in it, and Heath Ledger dying unexpectedly probably changed a lot of the plans. Overall though, I think it wraps everything up so well, and it leaves Gotham feeling a lot better than it ever has, and it gives Bruce a happy ending with everything all taken care of. It definitely holds up really well today, and if you go back and watch it, it doesn't feel like an old movie, and if this exact script came out today with a new Batman movie, it would probably be praised as really good. Now here comes the actual scary part. If you can put two and two together and realize I said in the beginning of the video that one of these movies doesn't hold up today, and I've spent all this time so far praising Batman Begins and praising The Dark Knight Rises, that means there's only one movie left. Now listen boys, before someone tries to murder me or leave a 20-paragraph comment on how dumb I am, all I ask is that you hear me out on this one first, and then you can comment ripping me to shreds. I rewatched The Dark Knight release in theaters recently, and all I can say is it isn't what I remembered. Watching all three of these movies recently in a short time frame makes you feel like The Dark Knight sticks out really bad. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the good parts about this movie because it's been out for like 15 years or something, and we all know it's a masterpiece, and it probably has the best supporting character in probably any movie ever, and it has a great soundtrack and amazing action and iconic ending and all that. We already all know all of that. Nobody's debating that, nobody's saying it's not true, but the more interesting thing to talk about is how compared to the other two, it just really doesn't hold up. Now, I'll tell you why I think that, but the first problem I have with this movie after a rewatch is that it feels so congested. Why is there like 30 villains in this movie? There's Maroni and the goons and all the regular villains, and then there's also Harvey Dent, and then on top of that, the main one is the Joker, and they all have like main villain energy. Like any one of them could have been the main villain. I think the Joker could have just soloed this movie and it would have been a little cleaner, and I don't think him and Dent worked together at the same time as well as they would have hoped. There's really just not enough runtime in this movie to flesh both of them out, and a lot of people say Harvey Dent's fall is a little too quick for them and that it doesn't work, which I think I kind of agree with, but I really think it should have just been one of them in this movie. Batman's tech here is another smaller issue, and it just feels too overpowered and not Batman-like, and again, it's just different from Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises because he doesn't have anything as overpowered as like the all-seeing machine in either of those two movies. It kind of just distracts from what he's able to do due to his training and everything that he's learned from Batman Begins. And other common complaints people have about The Dark Knight is like Joker's plan and how lucky he has to be for it to work and everything. Now, I'm able to look past that. I don't really think that's too big of an issue. Obviously, the Joker is super smart and he knows what he's doing, and he probably had backup plans and everything. They don't need to spell out every single thing for us to like it, but the movie just overall, it looks and feels different. And I think the main reason for that is it's not really focused on Bruce too much. In Begins, he's obviously the only person who could beat Ra's al Ghul, and in Rises, he needs to evolve to beat Bane, but in Dark Knight, he's just kind of stuck in the mess the Joker puts the city in, just like every other normal citizen. Batman doesn't even really win in this movie either. Like, Rachel dies and Harvey Dent turns evil anyway, and in the end, they just lie to the public and sweep everything under the rug. The main conflict at the end with the ferry boats, it doesn't even involve Batman, and the people of Gotham probably would have chosen the same without him. And even worse, it probably wouldn't even have happened without Bruce in the first place, because Joker is just setting up these things because of how Batman is. Choices in this movie just stick out badly when you compare how Batman affects almost everything in the other two movies and almost like nothing in this one. Maybe some people like Batman stories where he's not in control and the enemies are outsmarting him and everything, but personally I enjoy the more contained storylines of the other two movies and feel like a happier ending with Bruce winning is just better for the universe. Overall, the directing choices with the lighting and how the movie looks stated with the feeling that it's overly long and congested with too many villains, and the fact that it feels like the Batman is playing catch up the entire movie, it just puts it down a lot in a rewatch for me. And again, I'm sure watching this movie for the first time probably feels magical and it's like the greatest movie of all time. And all of this is based on watching the trilogy again in 2026 and comparing all three of them together as a package. I think that's why it's so off and why it's easy to put this movie down after the rewatch, because the first and the third feel so similar, and then I don't know why the second one feels different, and it's not like that in really any other trilogy. If anyone else feels this way, and if you haven't watched the trilogy in a while, I highly encourage you to rewatch them and come to the conclusion that I have, or come to the conclusion that The Dark Knight is the masterpiece and it's the greatest movie ever, and all the good parts overshadow the bad parts, which I think both are completely valid. But based off everything I said, I don't feel bad with the revelation I came to about this movie, and I get it's kind of a hot take. Anyways, I'm going to be posting a ton of rewatching of iconic movies just like this. So if you like movies, shows, etc., you can sub up if you want, but I can understand if not if you're mad at me about this take.